question I want to pose to you is x equals negative 1/2 from 0 to 2 pi the same as sine inverse of negative 1/2 equals x. If you remember, the inverse is needed in order to look up this solution here, although this is one we might be familiar with from the unit circle. And so the sign of x is referring to certain quadrants. It is restricted to quadrants 1 through 4, 0 to 2 pi. Is that the same as this? So let's say it again. If the problem started out in the first condition, is that the same as this step, which is one step in the process of finding that answer? The second problem then, could it start out in this way and give you an answer? Well, if we go to the second one, the sine inverse of negative 1/2 is negative 30 degrees. That is not between 0 and 2 pi. When we look at the unit circle and we look for negative 1/2, in this case, we find it's two places. It's at 330 degrees and it's at 210 degrees between 0 and 360. Or 0 and 2 pi. You see, if the problem restricts us to 0 to 2 pi, this negative 30, which the calculator would give us, and there's nothing wrong with that answer, is just not between 0 and 360. You would have to subtract that from 360 in order to get 330, which is this answer that we got originally. But there are two answers, 330 and 210. That's when it's in this form. This says sine of what angle, or angles, is equal to negative 1/2. Look on your unit circle and you'll see these are the two answers. So there is a difference. So we've got to look and see, is the domain restricted? If it's from 0 to 2 pi, 0 to 2 pi is all that works for answers. If it's wide open and it's not restricted, we would do something like coterminal. We would say 330 plus 360n or minus 360n, and the other would be 210 plus 360n, which is an infinite number of answers. I want to show you that on the Desmos graphing calculator. I have a sine wave here. This is the same one we just did. And then I put y equals negative 0.5. If you remember in the previous page, that's what sine of x equals negative 0.5. Well, that's this line right here. Look where it's intersecting the sine wave. If I was in degrees, this would be 210. And if I was in degrees, this would be 330. So if I'm restricted between 0 and 2 pi, between 0 and 2 pi, then these two would be the answers. However, if it was wide open, it would be all of these answers. So the way we show that is this answer, 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. And this would be 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. If we were in degrees, we would say 210 degrees plus 360 degrees n. And this would be 11 pi over 6 plus 360 n. Now, n could also go to the negative direction as well as the positive. When it's wide open, not restricted between 0 and 2 pi, there's an infinite number of answers. They are stated with a plus 2 pi or plus 360 n. That's the way you state an infinite number of answers. But you do have to come up with these two to start with, and that's where the calculator will help you. Now remember, the calculator gave us this answer. It gave us negative 30 degrees. Well, that's wrong if it's between, answers are only allowed between 0 and 2 pi, which would be right here. Only answers between that. But if the problem is wide open, we don't have to worry about that. Now we put plus or minus 2 pi, or plus or minus 360. So that might help you. We have a lot of problems to do of this type. You'll notice here, if I put a 2 here, all of a sudden I get twice as many answers in the same because I cut the period in half. You'll notice all of these would be answers, except we wouldn't really state them. We would just say this original these original two, plus or minus pi n in this case because it was reduced down. So look at all these answers that would be possible if that was a 2, and look at them. If there was a 3, it just keeps going, more and more and more answers. The sine wave is getting shorter. Okay, hope this helps you as we get into multiple answers